We all set?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, I'd like to start the meeting at 8:37. Present Bill McGowan, Carol Rowe, Paul Kears, Wayne Sawchuck, and Dan Coughlin. And our first order of business will be our next meeting, which in 2 weeks will be the 29th of November. So does that work for everyone?
Yes,
Is that near Thanksgiving or what?
the Tuesday after.
Okay.
So do
Bill,
we
you gonna
have,
s- I'm sorry, are you gonna do the harbor discussion first?
either one? I mean, if we've got Tim on and Josh, we can have them come on, sure.
Okay,
I don't see Tim.
I'm putting them,
Yeah, Josh should be, if you can promote him.
yep, he's on right now.
Josh, do you want to talk about the harbor?
Sure. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Josh Kimball. I am the Natural Resource Officer for the town of Cohasset and Norwell. Part of my job is now the Shellfish Constable's position, but primarily I do animal control, marine patrol, and fish and game. When I got to Cohasset back last August, I absolutely had fallen in love with it, much like I do anything that involves the ocean, the outdoors, and all the like. And one thing that I was a little, concerned about was that we didn't have any recreational shell fishing opportunities, given the town's deep roots with commercial lobstering, commercial fishing. So I've kind of set it out and enlisted the help of Tim Davis to try to see if we can open up recreational shell fishing in town. I think that it would be a very, very good avenue to kind of add to our Cohasset Harbor portfolio, where residents and potentially non-residents alike would have the opportunity to go out to get soft shell clams or whichever they may find. Part of the struggles that I have run into thus far is that prior to last August, the town never really had an active shellfish constable. So the Division of Marine Fisheries had essentially prohibited all of Cohasset's waters to shell fishing. We're now kind of getting through all of that red tape, so to say, and trying to come up to the new standards under the National Shellfish Sanitation Program. And we are trying to open up recreational shell fishing in the town. One of those steps that we have to overtake is developing a conditional area management plan. And that would involve the sewer department, myself, signature from the town manager, as well as a signature from the Situate Shellfish Constable. So we do have a conditional area management plan drafted up with the Division of Marine Fisheries. Currently, Chris Senior has sent it over to our town council to vet before we kind of move forward with anything. But it's definitely something that is 100% needed if we wanted to open up recreational shell fishing in the town, which I think will be a fantastic addition to whichever we do. One of the reasons why this is required, that the sewer department is involved, is because we have that outfall pipe in the harbor. Granted, the inner harbor will most likely never be open to recreational shell fishing, but out beyond the breakwater towards Whitehead, or even all of Cohasset's waters, it is required that this document does get signed. Let's see, I had a couple of bullet points here. So essentially right now, all of our waters, like I said, are prohibited because We never really had an active shellfish constable that worked with DMF to go out and survey sites, have water quality testing done. There was no one to ever really patrol anything. So if someone was violating something, that, you know, it would never be dealt with appropriately. The state now works off of the NSSP guide for the control of shellfish. I think I forget what year the revision was, but it's kind of, you know, come into play with areas where it's open for shell fishing, where it's close to outfall pipes for sewer plants. Essentially, the document that, not at this time, I'm asking anyone to sign because it still hasn't been approved by the town manager and town council, is it's going to be essentially an MOU between the sewer department, myself, and the Situate Shellfish Constable. So the area out beyond the harbor right now is on our side of the water is prohibited. On the Situate side, it's conditionally approved. And that is because they have an active shellfish constable that has gone out to, is able to go out and inspect and all the like, and check all the boxes for the Division of Marine Fisheries. We need to be reclassified from prohibited to conditionally approved in order to allow shell fishing. I've been working with the Division of Marine Fisheries currently to collect data. They've gone out a couple of times on a boat to get water samples or the like. So, you know, like I said, this document is going to be required if we want the area open to shell fishing, or even the entire town. Essentially what the document is it's a MOU between us that the wastewater treatment plant will alert the Division of Marine Fisheries and the two town shellfish constables if there was some sort of malfunction or bypass event where untreated sewage was then discharged into the harbor. And that would be a requirement within 24 hours, similar, I'm sure, what, you know, the DEP requirements are. After that happens, the Division of Marine Fisheries comes down. They basically assess the impact of the event, and if needed, they issue a closure notice for shell fishing for public health reasons. But like I said, we don't. I didn't want to, you know, prolong this any longer and cancel on you guys. I wanted to kind of get it on the radar, so to speak, that it will be coming down the pipeline, no pun intended. And I'm hoping that once it gets all approved by town council and we kind of vet it out, we can get this signed so that hopefully in the springtime, we would be able to open up our waters to, or springtime or summer, to recreational shell fishing in town.
So just a couple of questions I have for you,
Yeah.
Josh, and that is, one is, you know, what is the definition of recreational shell fishing for Cohasset? And then the second thing you mentioned is this memorandum of understanding for the sewer department to notify Cohasset and Situate within 24 hours if there's an issue. I'm not aware of any memorandum of understanding that we have with Situate currently. I understand that they are opening up commercial oyster farms in the harbor area, and I don't remember having them come before us stating that they would need something like that as in place for what they're doing. Is that something that you're aware of, or?
Yeah, so on the Situate side of it, I really haven't been up to speed. I've been trying to watch their past meetings and get through all of that. I'm really not entirely sure what their whole plan is, but on our side, you know, recreational shell fishing would be, you know, husband, wife, kids going down, they want to go and dig a peck of clams, or, you know, try to see if they can get scallops or whichever, or oysters if they can even find any, and then bringing them home for harvest.
Does that include lobster traps as well, or no?
It does not. Nope. Lobster traps are an entirely separate thing. Shell fishing would just be steamers
Okay,
or soft shell clams, quahogs, oysters, skunk, eels, and mussels.
Okay,
So
And
those are
was-
the only species it would affect. It would not affect, lobstering at all.
I
I
have
know
a
some
question
people
for
do-
Josh from weekend. Josh,
What's that, Wayne?
yeah, we don't have any memorandum of understanding to notify your department of any issues with sewer that would affect lobsters. Is that something that needs to be in place?
It would not, no. Lobstering, those are kind of transient shellfish, so to say. They don't bury in the sand.
Okay,
And they're not really impacted by a sewer event because, sorry about that. Much like, we wouldn't close down the regular fin fishing if there was a sewage event. It's really just the shell fishing portion
Okay.
because they're in the sand. They're the most impacted by water quality issues.
thank you.
Josh, can I
Yes.
ask a question about, did you look at Little Harbor as an area for reopening up shellfish? Especially the land that is owned by the Sandy Beach Association across the street on Atlantic Avenue, on the Little Harbor side of the property.
It's
That
definitely
was-
something, it's definitely something I would like to explore. Right now, we've just kind of got to get through the regulatory tape of getting the areas open with the potential to open, because what we don't want to do is go through all of this water quality testing, do shellfish surveys to see what we have out there, and then only come down to not being able to get documents signed or whichever, because all that time would essentially be wasted, both on the Division of Marine Fisheries end and on my end. It would be a lot of hard work, a lot of hours if we weren't able to get it signed. So we kind of want to take it step by step. And the first step would be to we've got to get this document looked at by town council, approved by the town manager, approved by the other shellfish constable next door in Situate. And then we can go forward with starting to really get into some hardcore water quality testing, shellfish surveys to see what we've got out there. And then we would be able to go in there. But I will absolutely say, Wayne, that has been on my radar a little bit. It looks like it would be a fantastic area for soft shell clam habitat. And I'm sure there's some that's out there right now.
It has been seeded in the past. And
Oh, has it?
yes. And the fortunate thing is there aren't any sewer pipes that are going into Little Harbor. And the question would be, would you even have to talk to Situate about that portion of your plan? So it might be something that could happen sooner than later. If there are too many obstacles, especially when we're competing with Situate and on their oyster farm and all that other stuff. Because Sandy Beach is just on the other side is just perfect for it. So, thank you.
Josh, is the draft plan available for review and comment, or?
We do not have it right now. We have it sent over to town council. The town managers looked over and sent it over to them. I'm hoping that we can get a opinion from them by the end of this week. That way, the next sewer commission meeting, I can try to get on the agenda, and then I'll have it for you guys for review.
Hey, Jess, I always wonder if I could get a copy of your sampling plan as well. I just find that interesting. I'm an environmental scientist. That's my background. And, we've been sampling the harbor for 5 years since I've been here, and I can recognize how it varies. And I'd just be interested to see like where you're going to do it, what lab you're going to go to, what kind of analyses you're going to analyze for. So if I could get a copy as well, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Right now, the Division of Marine Fisheries are the ones who they'll come out, they sample, and then they bring it to their lab down in New Bedford on Rivalry French Boulevard, and they go through all of that stuff.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
Anyone else?
just a comment, just the biggest thing I think is going to be the weather events. Do you have a regular program to sample after those?
Yeah, so the Division of Marine Fisheries, they've got it all labeled out on when they come out. When I was shellfish constable down in Wareham, we would go out in rain, sleet, snow, wind, hail. So they definitely have a plan for, and even, you know, all tide cycles as well. So they definitely have a plan on when to sample and all that for water quality.
Terrific. Well, let us know what, if you want to get on the next meeting, so we'll certainly have you.
I appreciate it.
Anybody else have any more questions?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. So, Josh, the sampling that they do, will they be setting then new TMDLs for the harbor? Is it related to that, like total maximum daily load of constituents?
That's going to be something that I'd have to ask DMF off the top of my head. I don't know. Yeah, I'd have to ask them. I'll send you an email, Brian, and then I can get you in touch with our biologist, and she might be able to answer that question better than I can.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Yeah, and if I could get a copy of the sampling plan, send to Pam, that'd be great.
Sure.
Thanks, Josh.
And if any of that sampling is required by the sewer that we're not doing now, we need to know if there's additional things that we would need to do since we have the outflow there.
Definitely. I will absolutely keep you guys informed, because like I said, this has never been done before. So we've got a whole lot of loops to kind of get through and some red tape and all that. But I'm hopeful with the persistence, and luckily I've got the help of Tim Davis, because if he didn't help me, I'd probably be still in left field a little bit. So we're getting through it all, and hopefully we can get this all ironed out for the spring.
Very good. All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, why don't we go on to Rob and Scott and talk about membranes?
Good morning, Scott's here. I don't know, I think Rob might have had to jump at 9:55, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's still on.
Is he still?
I'm still on. Yep.
Well,
Sorry
excellent.
about that.
Very good. So, do you want to give us a quick synopsis on where we are with Suez and what's happening in the world of membranes?
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. Oh, sorry, John.
No, that's okay. It's probably better you lead it, Scott.
Yeah.
Did all the cleaning.
So currently where we are with the membranes is we made the decision to switch back to all the regular aeration skirts, and that has been completed. We completed the hypo clean on side 2, and we are halfway through a hypo clean on side 1 as we speak. They're working very well at the moment. The concern was the delamination that we were seeing and how we wanted to move forward with that.
Okay. Have you had any communications with the manufacturer?
We spoke with Matt Stapleford from Suez back in maybe in the summertime when we first noticed it on side 2. We noticed a little bit on side 2 when we talked with them. That's it though. We haven't really gotten back with them about anything. They haven't reached out anymore either.
So last we left off, the town hall was pulling the contract and contacting them directly in written form. Right, Michelle Leary was taking care of that. Because we pulled the warranty. Does anyone remember that last week or 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, it was like a
Okay.
10-year warranty, and I
Yeah.
know we've talked about it.
Yeah, Michelle Leary said she was going to take hold of the situation and contact them directly because the town purchased them, so it would be something from the town to go to them, not necessarily your company going to them.
Yeah, it was a capital purchase for all the membranes.
Yep.
The last email I remember from Michelle, it said, please, commission, please let me know if you want to proceed. And then I reached out, I think to Bill and Scott maybe, and said, yeah, I think we want to proceed. So I don't know if the commission has ever given Michelle the directive to do it.
I thought we did.
Yeah, we did.
You may have.
Yeah,
I
during
just
the
didn't
public
see
meeting
it.
we did. So hopefully she's able to follow through with it. Brian?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Carol-
so I was just on the other line. So Michelle's in a meeting, another meeting right now, but she's contacted town council to draft a letter to Suez on the warranty. So
Okay.
that's where we stand.
Okay.
So to the Woodard guys, are we in any danger of like catastrophic failure in the next 60, 90 days, 120 days?
No.
No,
Okay.
I don't think so.
Our biggest fear is that it's going to decrease their useful life. You know, I don't think we're not gonna have any catastrophic failure, but immediate failure. But I think that our biggest issue is going to be, I think it's gonna, lessen how long these things are gonna last.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so I guess we wait to see what town council says, and certainly we'll copy you guys on that letter. But on another question, was there any adverse impacts to the water main break that we had in the last week or so?
No, not from our end. We saw an increase in flow that day. We see an immediate impact. It was very good timing that it happened when it did. But we saw an immediate impact, but nothing that the plant couldn't handle. About a
Okay.
20,000 gallon increase, 25, somewhere in that range.
Wow. Okay, though. All right, well, I know you guys are busy. We'll as soon as we hear from Michelle on the letter, we'll be in touch with you. And then I would like to get Suez, obviously dependent on what legal counsel says, but it would be good to get Suez before the board so we can ask them, what are they going to do?
Absolutely.
So,
And like I said, we have all the work orders, all the pictures, all the documentation on everything that we've done, and pictures of what it looks like now, and we'll continue to do that as well. So.
So,
Okay.
Scott, I just have a quick question. So the new membranes that we have relative to the old membranes, did the old membranes have that coating, like the new membranes?
I would
Yes.
imagine. Hey, I would imagine all the membranes have a coating on them.
Yeah, there's a polymer coating on all the strands.
But the older strands didn't fail in this manner. After 8 years or whatever.
Yeah, no, we didn't really see it. We didn't really see this in the old membranes.
Thanks.
It's Brian, it's not unheard of where they have a bad run in the factory, which is entirely possible. And then it could also be that new generation. I haven't heard of any complaints from anyone, but I haven't really been talking to anyone. Dan, have you heard anything?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything bad about the new membranes. Performance seems to be the same as before, but obviously the new, the leaf skirts that were put on, that is something new. That trapping sludge around the membranes, something new.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that could have a significant influence, and even the aeration rates were a lot higher. So the scouring air could have some influence too.
Right. It'll be interesting to see what Matt said, because first discussion, he said, get some silicone and patch the front of it. It's like, it's more than that. It's not strands, it's many strands.
yeah.
Yep. Just when town council puts that together, do you have the photos as well? Were those given to Michelle?
They have not been given to Michelle. No, I have them and can forward anything to her. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea to get those to her, so it's part of the submission.
I think the very first, like the video I took and a few pictures I did forward to Lisa. So there might be some moving around up there, but I'll put a little file together with everything that I have.
Yeah, that'd probably be better.
No problem.
Okay. Anything else, guys? All right, well, thank you, Scott and Rob.
Yeah, thank you very much for moving this up. Greatly appreciated.
No problem.
Thank
You
you.
guys have a great weekend and a nice Thanksgiving.
Same to you. Take care.
Thank you. Talk to you.
Bill, I have a conflict. I have to jump off for a few minutes with a consultant at about 10:15, 10:20. I was just wondering, could we talk about 124 before then? The
Sure.
Harbor Hotel.
Yep.
So I think I saw Ted Lovitz was on here a few minutes ago, but he seems to be off. Carol, I don't know if you could re-promote him. But at any rate, there were email chains going around about the sewer connections, the reconnecting of the sewer out at 124 Elm Street. I went down there last week and went over it with the site superintendent, and Ted showed up halfway through that meeting, just coincidentally. But anyway, the reconnection of the two buildings, they're proposing to put a manhole on the sidewalk and then on the property. So the north building would be the one closest to Margin Street area. And then the south building would go to that sewer manhole A, which was the one that was in question. It was close to the footing and they wanted to potentially move it, but I think they're proposing now to keep it in the same spot. And then this brought up, discussion among the board, and I think Wayne and Dan about, the laying of that sewer. So the pitches all work. I mean, the elevation pitch works. I think, Dan's comments about encasing the pipe underneath where the slab is a good one. And they're amenable to that. Anyway, everything on site seems to work the way they're proposing to do it. But you had asked them, to bring it up in discussion here, so that's where we are.
Are they submitting new plans or what are they doing?
So they've submitted the sketch. Well, I'll leave it with Ted, or if I'm not sure if his site super is on here to talk about
Yeah,
it.
Ted is on.
Yeah, hi. Sorry, we just all got booted from the meeting, so I'm trying to get my team back online, but I know Deb Keller was here and I think Pat Finn. But to answer your question, yes, we did submit plans showing what we'd like to do. I emailed those as part of this meeting. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to review them. I believe Brian has. But those are there, and let me try to get Deb so that she can walk through them if you'd like.
Who were they sent to? Ted?
They were sent to the chair and to Carol.
I don't remember getting them, to be honest.
Okay, sorry, I'm just piecing together. Let me see. I sent the email. Let me see. So I sent them on Wednesday, November 9th, and I can resend them right now as well, if that would be helpful to the entire commission and to Dan. Is that
Yeah, that'd be
helpful?
Yeah, we'll obviously need time to look at them, but
Yeah, I don't know if I joined as Brian was talking, but I don't think there's anything controversial based on what I've been told, at least.
the last time we talked about any plans was probably 6 or 8 months ago, where you wanted to move one of the manholes, and the concern was moving it far enough out from the building and where that was going to lie. But then apparently you moved it back to where it originally was.
So it's all within our, my understanding is we eliminated that manhole and it's now a clean out, and it's in our property line. And then there's another new manhole going in pretty much the exact same location where it previously was.
So I don't want to confuse the two sites. There's 87 Elm Street. I think you may be referring to, Paul, where they're moving the sewer for that building. And that was the one that there was a lot of discussion, and there was a sewer easement through the building and such. That's being installed the way it was agreed to.
Yeah.
What we're talking about today is the stuff on the north side. It's 124 Elm Street.
Yep.
Which is adjacent, there are two buildings on that parcel. I'm calling the south side, the one that's, on the south side of that parcel, and the north one on the north side.
Okay.
So it's those connecting those buildings to the existing gravity sewers that flow towards the north side of Elm Street there.
Yeah, my understanding is there are no new sewer connections. This is just reconnecting to where it already comes into the site. And I just resent it, so hopefully you guys received it.
Yeah, we haven't, like I said, the last time we saw something on 124 Elm was probably 8 months ago. So an update
we've
would
really-
be- yeah.
We've really never seen anything until just recently. And I don't think the Margin Street connection up there was ever connected to the old building, but was put in when the sewer was put in, but not used. So that was really a new situation. And then, of course, the manhole was discussed first when wanted them to put the cover on it. Then 2 days later, they tore the manhole out. And so then I had no idea what are they doing? And therefore, that's the pipe that's going to be used, that's going to have the manhole either in the sidewalk or on the roadway. And I think Dan had a question about what was going in the pipe that is near the water main, and is the pipe going to go under the water main, or what's going to happen with that? And I don't know if that's been discussed. Dan, can you comment on that?
Yeah, I see Deb Keller on there. Maybe she can answer some of the questions. Ted, were you able to see some of the comments we had sent back to the board?
I did. Hi, good morning, Deb Keller. Yes, I did see your comments, and looking at it, as I believe I heard Ted mention, that sewer manhole that was originally proposed within the sidewalk. We re-reviewed that and felt as though there's a sewer manhole. That's the connection for, as Brian mentioned, what we call 124 South building, which has to go underneath the 124 North building to tie into the street. So there is a sewer, as it comes out of the building, goes into a sewer manhole, goes under 124 North building, a clean out in lieu of what was identified as sewer manhole A. Since it sounds like there's limited room within the sidewalk and too many utility conflicts within the street. So a clean out will stay on property and tie into that existing service. And I believe the comments were the water services coming into the site. There's a crossing with that sewer service. I did review those, and we can be below the water service. It would be a crossing, and it would be less than the 18 inches of separation that we'd ideally like to have between the two services. So that crossing would have to be encased, or I would recommend it being encased, as I believe you had mentioned, Dan.
Yeah, any way to get rid of some of those
And then
pens? Yep.
We did. I'm not sure if you saw the latest plan.
I have not.
But I did adjust the sewer manhole. I think it's sewer manhole identified as sewer manhole C, coming out of Building South back to the original location, so there's no jog. And then we're going straight through. A lot of those bends were in discussion with the contractor, trying to avoid some of the footings. But they have since come back and said that they can address that through construction, so that they've seen where the sewer service needs to go and will address that.
And Dan, that you should have this in your inbox now, with a couple bullet points addressing some of your comments. So again, I apologize that you didn't get it. I did send it around on the 9th.
Yeah, as Wayne mentioned, these are all play services. One of them was never used before. We had also talked about doing some CCTV to inspect those to see what condition they're in.
Yep,
Is that
and
something
we actually scheduled and did that yesterday.
How'd they look?
I don't have that update, but I didn't get any any indication that they were bad.
Yeah, no
Usually I
issues,
hear
but we
bad
can
news.
send that around once we receive it for sure.
Yeah, if you could forward that, that'd be great.
And just one thing on the two existing services, I think, it's been mentioned that the easterly service wasn't used before. I think that actually was the main service for the building, based, if you look at the ortho of where the sewer manhole came out of the old hotel. And the one that's on the west side was one that was, it was probably a little less used, coming from the pool side of the hotel.
Yeah.
At any rate.
Yeah,
I think
thank you,
they were
Brian.
both utilized.
They were, when we capped them, they were absolutely, the main sewer service was that north margin one. And then, like you said, the other one on the pool side was less used, but it still was active.
Yeah, it'd be good to take a look at them just to make sure that they're all set, since this is a brand new development, obviously.
Yep.
Don't have a problem with that.
I just one comment to Dan. My assumption, and I believe it was referenced in the notes, that we would be using the same details and information that were reviewed and approved through the within the sewer relocation plan. I believe we had a detail for a clean out as well as a sewer manhole, and all of the appropriate references and notations that were reviewed previously. So those would be what would be followed for these two connections as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you had drop inlets detailed. We'd want to just take a peek at that as well.
I did have one, and I assumed an inside structure drop inlet at this point, unless there's a preference to do an exterior drop. I do have that detail and forward that along.
Yeah, those are all going to be on private property anyways, correct? In the
Yes.
manholes?
Yes,
Yeah, so I mean, it's probably easier for them to construct the inside drop.
right.
Just want to make sure there's sufficient hardware and, how it transitions into the invert. Not just dumping down, so.
Sure, I will forward that detail. I have it as an 8.5 by 11 sketch. I can forward that over as a PDF.
Would it be helpful if we pulled up the drawing on the screen right now, or?
I'm looking at it now. I don't think it really need to at this point.
Okay,
I think we want to take a look at the video just to make sure that that's all squared away, and then probably at the next meeting, we can give you formal approval or whatever. What's your time frame? Is that something you
So-
need in advance?
yeah, so this is incredibly hot, so to
Yep.
speak. We are in the process of pouring the foundations, and I will take full responsibility for this. I apologize it didn't get to you. I thought it was part of the process through permits that ultimately it would end on your desk, so I apologize for that. We are again up against a critical path timeline, trying to get these manholes set. And so if there's any way to expedite the review or to have a conditional approval.
Then what I would recommend to the board is maybe after we take a look at those videos and get the detail, I can confer with Wayne, and if the board would vote to allow Wayne to give the final authorization, we don't have to wait till next meeting. It's up to the board.
That's fine with me. I wouldn't know what I'm looking at anyway.
I would only do that if Wayne is in consultation with Brian Joyce as well. I mean, Brian's been more active on the site than anyone else, and Dan he's supposed to be, going down and inspecting things as they go. This isn't a situation where, you just get a permit and off you go. We're supposed to be inspecting things along the way. So I think Dan's got to be down there too at some point. So
Yeah, I always had a kind of question. Do we ever get a formal submission for this for modification? Any type of formal submission besides what we just got now, the plan?
No,
I don't know if there's a permit application before the board.
Yeah, so that was, again, something I asked in the email on the 9th, what we need to submit for the reconnection. So I don't know. I mean, again, we're happy to submit whatever we need to.
what'd you do for 87 Elm, right? You submitted an application for 87.
Deb would have to check in on that. I don't know where that stands.
Yeah, I would have to follow back up. That was pre my involvement, but I can look into how that was done. The only comment I would say is I know that 87 Elm was more detailed because we were actually relocating the sewer main on site versus for 124, these are just reconnections to existing services. And no, I just didn't know if that was something that would have a different approach from a permitting.
Well, we still need to get the applications filed and get the plan submitted and approved, even though they're existing connections, we still have to look at them. They're old. You've run the camera through there, so we need to see those videos as well and understand, what direction we're headed and when do you think you're going to be finished and when our next inspections are prior to it being completed.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't just a repair on the service, the buildings have been modified, there's new buildings there. So this constitutes basically a modified use or a change in use to the board. So a formal submission should be made to the board for each of the properties.
one of my
Just so we-
questions, go ahead, Dan.
No,
Continue.
just so they have a mechanism for approval.
Okay. One of my questions was, is there any, you're doing the condominiums, but is there any spaces that are going to be used for either a restaurant or any part of it or any of the retail components of what the project is?
So there are 2 retail locations. We do not have uses for those right now. So I don't know what the end user will be. I did provide, I forget the term you guys use. I did provide an analysis to Lisa. I believe it went to the board going back a few months ago about, square footage and number of units and compared to the prior use and all that. So I have submitted that.
Yeah, it was just, my point is that if you're going to have any type of a restaurant, we really want to make sure we have a grease trap and stuff there. And it may, you should be showing everything in the floor plan rather than just the sewer connection. So that it's we want you to put in whatever you're going to need for the future if you have some ideas. So that,
yeah, and with respect to the grease trap, that would be, by others and probably, mounted to the slab above grade. So it would not be built into the project.
Okay. And I guess the only other thing is that the importance of doing this right is, I got a correspondence from the past file here that said that between July 15th, 2005 and May 12th, 2006, there was a leak in the pipeline system under the previous building that generated approximately 6.65 million gallons of flow to the town wastewater collection system. It sort of scares me that something like that could even happen, but when you're below sea level and there's anything bad with one of those collection pipes, You know, it's just gonna be troubling. So we just don't want history to repeat itself.
Yeah, I think the key there is, none of the floor drain systems should be tied to the sewer within the building.
Yeah, we have holding tanks for all three buildings. There's a shared holding tank for buildings north and south on 124, as well as a separate holding tank for 87. So all the floor drains drain to that holding tank.
And no sump pumps.
No, not that I'm aware of.
I don't think any of them are tied into the sewer. We do have elevator, sump pumps, I believe, but nothing tied into the sewer.
Those, I believe, I think, if I recall correctly, my last discussion was those were being tied into the holding tanks as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So
would you be open to Dan's suggestion and we can file the application and submit formally whatever you need to do? Again, we're trying to get this done in short order, and I apologize profusely for that.
Yeah, I think we can get it done. I think Dan's suggestion, just keep us in, give us the information as quickly as possible. And we'll just say, okay, right away.
Okay, and on the inspections, just so I'm clear, and Pat Finn is on, who's the project manager of this job for the contractor. For those inspections, should we work with Brian or should we work directly with the commission?
Say both.
Both, okay,
Yeah, any submission you should also send to Brian as well. to the
okay.
board.
All righty. You guys all set?
Yeah, I had some questions for Dan, ask him later about it.
All right.
Or those sub tanks and oil separators we talked about previously, so.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay, should we move on to Milliken Field? So I thought Michelle was going to be on for this for Brian, and I think.
So yeah, I'm
Oh, here you go.
I'm still on. I have a couple of minutes here. So Milliken Field, there's an existing sewer stub. The as-built show it's right up to that existing what's been used as a storage building at the edge of the field on Bancroft Road. And the recreation department and the various users of the field are proposing to put in bathrooms there and connect to the sewer. And I haven't seen anything in writing as far as the application or looking for a leaf, but the idea is that it's a town facility and it would be a kind of long overdue bathrooms that for the field use, and they were looking for relief on the application and the fees associated with those two public bathroom uses.
I should mention that.
Is this similar to the baseball field building?
So I'm not, is that the one down on Barnes off of North Main Street?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been in that one, but I think that's got a male and female bathroom.
That's right.
Yeah,
Just
so
check.
it'd be just like that. This is a concession stand and I think two public handicap bathrooms within that existing building.
Yeah, so could they let us know the use of the concession stand? Because I know down at Barnes, I don't believe there's running water or hot water there. And I don't believe they could cook food in the building. I know they grill outside, and I don't know if Pam is on, so she would know what the permit would be for that. If it's only prepackaged prepared foods or if they're going to be cooking there, then we would obviously have some additional concerns.
So Barnes is the one right on North Main Street, right?
Yes.
Right.
They do have hot water in there, and we do give them a food permit, and we do an inspection and make sure that their refrigerators are a certain temp and their hot water meets standards
Okay.
and stuff. So I forget what pushes them over the edge. I think they do hot dogs, and that's why they need a food permit.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I know they don't cook the burgers in there. I know those are outside, but I know they were limited for a number of years. Did you anticipate the same type of thing here, Pam, in Billiken?
If they do food beyond anything that's prepackaged, like I was just talking to people about the swim center, because they're gonna have like a snack shack there, and anything that's actually prepared on site, you need a food permit. And you need like a sink that you can do preparation to, like a prep sink.
Okay,
So I guess, I'd have to see like a layout or understand like what they're planning.
I do recall when the original application or the request for a stub milk and field was being submitted, the intent was always for the, a snack shack and restrooms. So the intent of that stub was specifically for this purpose. It just was never really implemented.
And I don't think there should be any fees. I really think this is a town asset, and I can't see why we should charge anything.
Yeah, and we've done the same thing before for other town entities as well, so. I agree. Do you want to make a motion, Wayne?
Sure. I make a motion that we let the town connect onto the existing sewer stub on Bancroft Road.
And then all
Yeah,
fees
no,
are included?
Yeah.
For nothing?
Yes.
I'd second. I'll do a roll call. Bill McGowan, aye.
Paul Kearsey, aye.
Wayne Sawchuk, aye.
My only recommendation is that you still get copies of the plans for the connection, so you know what's existing at the
Yeah.
facility.
Correct.
Yeah, so I'll talk to Michelle. She's kind of been spearheading this, and I'll make sure we get those plans. I think the challenge has been, as you know, there's been porta potties up there for, I think, probably 3 decades. And there's been several iterations of what to build up there. And then this is kind of the final, let's just use the existing facility and put in bathrooms. So we'll get those sketches over the board and go from there.
Yeah, so yeah, if they fill out an application with no fee and plans, then Carol can log it in and we have a building.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and then my own concern is, that, putting grinders on the sink and whatever they're gonna do to, because once you know you're on sewer, you want to run everything down the drain. So
Yeah, I think it'd probably be a good idea. So we get the formal application with the
Yeah.
plans, and then the board can put special conditions on it, like no,
anything else? Yeah.
no fog, greasy cooking or anything like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good. All
Thank
right.
you.
So we have Mr. Farag on next. We want to promote him, Carol. And he had sent a letter to the board a week or so ago, and he wants to discuss Beechwood and storing it.
I have promoted him.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, good. Thank you for putting me on the agenda this morning. This letter is a reiteration of the letter that we sent a couple years ago, and it's regarding the potential North Situate sewer. And for discussion, the question is that there's a couple other areas that should be looked at if the sewer pipe is to go down South Main, and that would be the southern end of 3A and potentially around the rest of Lily Pond regarding the town water supply, and that these areas should be fully explored as well. Not just for environmental reasons, which are stated in the letter, because all those connect to the back end of Mill Lane, and that goes right into the water supply, but also other considerations, potential economic development on that end of 3A, and otherwise. And my name is, again, quickly, David Farag, 39 Beechwood Street, Unit 4, and I'm and I'm also representing the other members of the condo, and they all signed on the letter as well. And a couple quick things regarding that as well is that regarding any sewer connection North Situate, while I know one of the potential benefits is the Gulf River, which leads into our Inner Harbor Cove and then Outer Harbor. But one of the things is that North Situate gets a tremendous amount of benefit in economic development from it if it goes that way. And that when you're looking at Cohasset, we should be looking at it in a holistic manner, not just for the environmental reasons, but potentially economic development as well. And I just don't see how, at this point, how the benefits outweigh the detractions and what North Situate gets versus what Cohasset could potentially get out of it. And then finally, I know there's some research that was done by CSCR here in town regarding, they test both areas. I know Weston Sampson is probably going to be doing some more testing regarding the different areas, but that the area of Bound Brook, Mill Lane, and these other areas should be looked at to be tested as well. And that if you, I did email CSCR regarding their results. Jack Buckley said that they might do a forum on their results in the future, but I would definitely ask that the Sewer Commission get those results in some way, shape, or form, and put them into the record, that even if Weston Sampson does testing, because you don't want to have the thing where if it does go down the line and you're looking to hook up areas, that you have research pop out at the end and it could say something which would controvert what you're studying as well. So with that being said, the letter kind of speaks for itself, and I'd be willing to hear from the board if you had any questions or comments regarding it.
Well, I don't at this time. I certainly appreciate your opinion and your insight into looking at any further development. I know that I mentioned to you that there was a study that's on our website where they talked about running sewer from Situate on 3A all the way down 3A. And that was like a $35 million ask to the town of Cohasset. And that was a number of years back, and that all got shelved. At this time, the only thing we've been talking about is South Main Street. And I'm concerned about expanding the project that we already have in front of us, unless there's some sort of detrimental issue that we need to address. The South Main project is there specifically to address the Gulf River issues.
Yeah, and I'd echo Paul's comments. We are looking at it as a specific, the catalyst that started this whole thing, at least in my opinion, was the Gulf, and to clean it up. I've gone on the record, and I'll do so again today, that I'm against any kind of expansion along 3A, because I would hate to see this town turn into what 3A in Hingham looks like. And that could be a certain possibility. The Main Street corridor was pretty apparent given the fact where our plant is and the connection points to Hull. And David, as you may or may not know, we've asked Woodard and Curran, who have given us an original design, very, very schematic, most likely actually a conceptual design, to go through and give us an update on potential costs and where we could go. And we should be getting that in the next week or so. We'll certainly put that up on our website and alert you to it coming. And that'll give us an idea of where we're going and where we're not going to go. I think one of the things we're trying to do, and I'm no scientist or engineer, is to utilize our existing conduit down Atlantic and Jerusalem Road to Hull. And we can't overfill it, I guess, is the most nonsensical way of putting it. But we're gonna have to figure out how we're going to convey things to Hull and how much they will take, because we really haven't had a discussion with them as well. So there's been some high-level talks with them between the town managers, but this board has not talked to them. We don't know what their appetite. There's a lot of stuff that still has to be done, and I think where we're going to go and how we're going to do it is a little bit early in this conversation. Wayne, you all set?
Yep, I have nothing to add right now.
Okay.
Well, as I said, again, I would just request that other areas be researched as well and tested environmentally for the potential benefits of Cohasset. I do think that one way or another that those questions need to be answered, because if you do look to hook North Situate, the obvious question is going to be, well, what about the other areas around our water supply that aren't? And I think that's a question that needs to be answered before anything is even looked at to hook up another town, because the question will come up again. So I mean, it's not like it's going to end here. So I think that whether it's testing or otherwise, that would need to be looked at to then, weigh the benefits and then go from there.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Yep, take care. Okay. So we have the Cook Estate. I think Tom is on.
I just promoted him.
Okay, great.
Hi, Bill. Hi, everybody. Tom Flannery here.
Hey, Tom.
So I think we have a number of people on the line. I thought if Paul Davis is on, I think Paul's been working the last week to 10 days or so on the connection. So Paul, are you on? Do you want to give a quick update?
I don't see him.
Okay.
Yeah, he did not call in.
Okay. How about Sean? Sean, are you on? Okay. Well, I'm not there at the location, but Steve and others have been there. I understand the pipe has been connected to the pump. The generator is in place. The gas connection to the generator is pending National Grid arrival on site, which we don't have a good timeline on at this point. We're currently trying to address electrical. The as-built plan show the electrical boxes to be within a certain distance of the pump and generator. That unfortunately is quite a stick out on the side of the hill. So we're trying to work with Paul Davis and Sean to see if we can make the site less visible to people that are coming into the development and the residents who live there. So there could be a situation where we may have to move the electrical. That will impact the plan, and we'll have to probably revise that and get that to you for review and approval should we make any changes there. The board is going to meet today at 4 o'clock to discuss some options that we may have on that. So that's kind of the update on where we're at. I think Sean has submitted to Dan and others the as-built that was requested a couple of weeks ago. That as-built was a draft because at that point the hookup had not been made. So, but it was as close to what we thought the final will look like. That of course could change if we have to adjust the electrical, but we don't think that will be a material change. But we'll have that for you. With respect to the agreement and coming out of the last meeting, one of the questions that came up at the last meeting was the question about the easements and ownership of the lines beneath the ground. So there was some back and forth. I don't know if there was some confusion, or I think Sharon was looking from the board as to what the board wanted to take responsibility for and what the association would have to take responsibility for. I think we've since heard that that the commission would like the association to take ownership of the pump and the line beneath the ground to the school property. And at that point, the town would take ownership of the line from there to the Deer Hills pumping station. I believe that's what we talked about. Now, with that, the question came up. We have a couple of attorneys on our board that asked the question, if that's the case, why does the town need an easement at all to come onto our property if we're taking responsibility for the maintenance of the system on our property? And I guess that same question would extend to the Hagee easement, which was requested that we get. I understand that we need an easement to be able to go on to their property. But I think what was requested at the time by the attorneys and the town was that we had to assign that easement to the town. And the question is, why would we have to assign that if you're not taking ownership of the line beneath the ground in the Hagee's property or our property? So I guess the question that we have is in fact an easement necessary if we're taking responsibility for the equipment on our property?
So we discussed with Sharon that, and we didn't ask for an easement from the Cook Estate because we were planning on just going to the line as we just discussed. She said that if we do go up to the pump onto your property, we would then need an easement. So we never asked for a Cook easement at all. We did get a Hagee easement because originally that line was being connected differently than it is now. So that easement was put in place early on. So we'd have to check with Brian Joyce to understand if the town is still going to need to go on to Hagee's property to repair anything there. Or if you're taking ownership of that line of Hagee's as well, then we can.
I think the way the current easement for Hagee's property, I think it reads that we have responsibility for it. So again, I don't know why it was asked for. I don't know what changed in that. I don't know the direction of the line, if that changed significantly from what we originally talked. But I do recall though that there has been some discussion in the past about the need for these easements. So maybe this has just recently been clarified once you guys decided that you want to take responsibility from the school property on and have decided not to take responsibility for it on our property.
Yeah, I don't know the iteration of all that, but I think as you know, for the record, as we spoke over the weekend, that I think that if we don't need it, and it goes back to your guarantee as well, whether the bond and the guarantee, if you guys are going to guarantee it through either Paul Davis or somebody else, I don't see a reason why we need the easement or anything else for that matter.
Okay. All right. Well, that clarifies it. I mean, if we don't, you can check with Brian, I guess, on Hagee's, but in any event, we have that easement that's been filed with the Registry of Deeds. And I believe that's necessary because that's their property. And if they need us to come on to make a repair, if necessary at some time in the future, because we have responsibility for it, then that easement makes sense. The other easement with the town then is probably not required. So that was the easement ownership question. The rest of the agreement, Bill, you just mentioned the bond. We've had Paul Davis review the latest draft as well. He raised the question. He didn't think the bond would be necessary with his guarantee. So, if that's can be removed, that would be great. And then I think the only other question we had related to the expenses, as has been discussed before. I think any engineering, inspection, legal expenses were going to be offset against the application fee of $27,000, representing $1,000 per home. I think there was language in there, the last iteration, that suggested that those expenses would also potentially run through the guarantee period of 1 year. So in other words, if there were additional expenses beyond the hookup date and running out through next year. Now, I was questioning, and others have questioned why that's the case. If we have, if the hookup's running, I don't see that. That's the first time we saw that put in, running an additional 1 year. So that was a little bit of a surprise. I don't know if there's reasoning behind that someone wants to address.
It
And
had
then
been there,
also-
it had
Go ahead,
been there
Paul.
the whole, yeah, that had been there the whole time. That was something that was part of contracts that we've had in the past. Where and if the warranty covers that period, we can certainly kind of address it using the warranty, but it was, that section basically was there to cover expenses for the sewer commission and its subject matter experts to go out and inspect and fix or repair anything. And if that's not the case, then if the warranty covers all of that, then it wouldn't be needed.
Okay, all right, that's good clarification. And then lastly, I think what we'd like to do is be able to review any expenses that have been accumulated, you know, right up to this point, that the commission would intend to apply against that 27,000, so we can see what's been reviewed to date. So we would probably make a request to review those at some point. I don't foresee that would be a problem, but we'd like to be able to do that.
So what's standard practice for the sewer commission is that we receive bills. They're usually in the rears from Dan, for instance, and we pay him. And then we take those bills and we would submit those to you. And you just have 15 days to respond to us saying, yes, we've got them. We're going to review them. And then we go from there. So if it's above the 27,000, we would be looking for reimbursement within a reasonable period of time. We don't define that period of time, but that's currently what we do. So you would get copies of those bills sent to you. You don't have to come to town hall to go look at them.
All right, so just a point of clarification on that. So right now, for any bills that you guys have received in the past year and a half related to this project, they have not been forwarded to us within 15 days. So
Correct.
We haven't seen them. So I would ask for kind of a modification to that so that we have the ability to review those now. Some of that, of course, would be beyond 15 days of your receipt, or beyond the 15-day period for us to respond to the date of the invoice. So we'd like to have the ability to review those and come back if we have any issues or need clarification on the details of any invoice, so we can assess the appropriateness of the expense.
Sure, that could be
I would
done.
just like to mention, I mean, I don't feel the expenses for this project are ever going to exceed the 27,000 that was collected as far as the application fee. So I think from that perspective, I'm not really sure if we're building in too much additional time and effort into this. I mean, the 27,000 was paid as an application fee, and that's typically used to pay the expenses of that fee of that application review. In this case, and it also involves inspections. So again, I don't really see anything exceeding that 27,000.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Okay, so that's kind of the update. I think with the exception of any questions you may have, we're trying to move this along. I think we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We just need to finalize this issue with the electrical connection, gas connection, and then coordinate to have the appropriate testing of the system done before we're completed, and of course review the final agreement. Bill, I don't know what you want to do in terms of next steps. We've been working with the latest draft of this agreement. We can come back, we can redline that if you'd like, based on some of this discussion, and submit that back to you and Carol for distribution. Is that a reasonable suggestion?
Yeah, sure, do that, and then we'll just have Sharon draft another final copy, and that'll be it.
Okay.
All right.
Tom, the only thing I
just
asked-
want to clarify just a question. It was in on the billing and saying that the association would be responsible for the the connection fees and the usage fees. And as part of this agreement, we're gonna bill the residents for the connection fees. We'll run that through here. That's really the main purpose of having this agreement. But the usage will be going directly to the residents, same as they get their water bills.
Right, and we talked about this a while ago.
Yes.
We don't know what's gonna happen in the future where, you know, when property transfers and things like that. So it'll go right to the association and then you can split it up. The water bills and the sewer bills will go directly to whoever the homeowner is.
Yeah. So again, clarify, the connection fees will coordinate that, collect it, do that. We got that process working out with the association, but the actual usage fees will be billed to the homeowner. Yeah, okay. Just wanted to make sure that was good. It's worded differently in here, so we'll adjust that.
Tom, the only other thing I want to mention is we still have some testing to be done. The pressure testing of the main, as well as the startup of the pumping station. I just want to remind you that we do need to be there for that testing and for the startup.
Yeah, I think Paul's aware of that. Yeah. Okay.
Anything else?
Not for me.
That's me.
Okay, all right, well, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay,
All
thank
right,
you.
bye. Okay, so do we have an update on CJC?
Yep, looks like Donald is on.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the pumps will be installed this week on both Stop and Shop and the 380 building and the wiring. We're still waiting for the control panel from where we're gonna get that. We hopefully will hear something this afternoon. We've been talking to them every single day, 2 or 3 times a day to get the control panel. The flow meters will be installed or is installed on one right now. We'll just give that data to the board on a quarterly basis. We will not be doing peak daily flows. That will not be recorded. So we'll give the flow meters, we'll give it to you on a quarterly basis. So we just send it to the board and you do what you want with it.
Okay, John, you had indicated that you were going to be providing the additional provisions to basically comply with that peak flow provision?
No, we're not able to comply with the peak flow provision. We'll give all the daily flow, all those flows, we'll give all that to you. We'll not be able to do the peak flows per day.
I mean, that is a point of the agreement as far
Well,
as.
I understand. We're just not able to put that into the flow meter.
Okay, I thought they had come up with a method and a rationale to do that.
No, they tried, but they couldn't come up with that. Do all your other developments have flow meters on them?
I'm not sure we're recording daily and peak flows anywhere else in town, are we, Dan?
Well, we used to have a pumping station over at basically the hotel before that was demolished. And that used to have a individual chat recorder that recorded peak flow use as well as max, totalizer readings.
Is that going to take place with the condos going there?
Not currently on the plans.
No, it's different entity. That was off of a pump system. That's when all their flows went to a pumping station and then it was pumped in. So when it had a pumping station, yes, now it's going to be gravity flow.
Okay.
So yes, in terms of commercial developments, yes, the pumping stations were flow metered.
So let's, Dan, if you can kind of give us a synopsis of why we need the daily or the peak flows and for what period of time, and what are we doing with the data? Who's capturing the data? And what do we, what is the data going to be used for? Are we going to be monitoring for 5 or 7 years? forever? I mean, what's the purpose of it if it's all going to Tupelo?
Yeah, I mean, the whole intent was basically to do two things. One is to measure the peak flows generated from the property, just to ensure that those flows are not exceeding the capacity of the Veterans Pumping Station or Tupelo Station. Originally, we had called for a single flow meter, which in my mind would have been potentially easier. In this case, they ended up putting in 3 different pumping stations and 3 different flow meters. So now it's a little bit more convoluted. You can't just look at a single value. So we're going to have to give them a recording sheet that summarizes that data and submit it on a quarterly basis. But that data is basically has twofold intent. One is to make sure that they are not exceeding the capacity of the station at any time, so we don't have surcharging in the system. The other thing is basically to make sure we don't have any II or infiltration inflow entering the system, and to track that as well, especially during wet weather and high groundwater periods. So those are really the 2 big things. And then obviously to correlate the flows generated from the site in relation to the water consumption data to make sure there isn't any significant difference.
Okay, and for how long are we going to be doing this? Is a 3 or 5 year deal? Is this a 1-year deal? I mean, what?
No, it's typically, as long as they are connected to the system.
And then what happens? What is our alert limit? Is it because we obviously don't want to get to the peak or exceed capacity, right? So there's got to be some sort of alert limit where it gets within 10% of capacity. I mean, what's the plan for that?
Yeah, well, it's somewhat changed. Again, we don't have a single flow meter being done here. So, they've elected to do 3 different meters. So from my perspective, they should be summarizing the 3 meters in the data to correlate to what the flow is emanating from the site. We don't want raw data. We don't have to, create more work for the towns, on the town's behalf, because they opted to do 3 flow meters. So what I plan to do is, once we knew what the flow recorders were going to record and provide, is to prepare a quarterly reporting chart for them to be filled out and submitted to the board. So to be very clear if they exceeded the thresholds, in terms of total flow as well as peak flow.
Okay.
But now we're being told that they're not going to be able to record peak flow. I think there is certainly a method to do that. There was a rationale that was put forward that indicated how they would do that. My feeling, it's probably a cost element at this point in time, because it's being done after the fact. And I'm not sure if that's a consideration the board wants to entertain because of the cost, and what the benefit of the peak flow is in relation to that. It would be very difficult, short of setting up our own flow meter, to get a peak flow from the property that's not being recorded.
Why don't we start with what we can do and see what that data tells us, and then from there figure out if we are going to need to do peak flow, and then how do we do that?
Yeah, like I said, there was a rationale, but it sounded like it would be an expensive option, and you have to multiply that times 3 for each one of those installations. So we can do whatever the board wants. Right now, it is written into the agreement that they're supposed to supply certain information, and that component of the agreement would not be complied with.
Well, let's figure out where that lies, and if the data is given to us and we can calculate and estimate the data, then technically it would be in compliance with what the agreement says, or we can amend the agreement to do what we can. But what do we?
Yeah,
can't have something that's something that's so erroneous that it can't be achieved.
From what I understand now from the flow meters, really all you're really going to get is basically a totalized flow for the day. And obviously that's not going to give you a peak flow for the day. It's just going to be a totalized flow. So
we're going to get it though from 3 different locations, right?
correct, and you'd have to add those each up. Well, he would have to add those up. But
Okay.
again, it's still a total flow, it's not a peak flow.
You'll have you can see over a 30-day period, what day that daily count is a peak flow.
If you're measuring daily and you're gonna see a spike or a downturn in usage. So the spike would obviously be a peak during that period of time. So I think if we track it, we can pretty much put it on a spreadsheet and see where, if it's seasonal that you have a higher peak, or if it's weather related where you have a higher peak, then we can see that.
Well, the recommendation may be to just have their engineer. They know what they're going to be able to extract from each flow meter and basically prepare a draft format for their report. And we can see how closely we can approximate the peak flow based upon that information.
I think it would be better, Dan, if you give us what you want and we comply to what you want.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's better that, instead of the town spending time and effort to do it, your engineer and the programmer of the unit, who is much more familiar with the technology or that unit than I am, provide the information to try to comply with what's in the agreement.
What we're going to do is take readings every day and put it on a chart.
Yes, and that's what I said. You're not going to get a peak flow from that.
Well, we'll get a peak.
Well, if you have the flow from every day, this is what we get out of Woodard and Curran, is they're giving us the flows every day. We see where there's peak based on the data they give us, and it's the same thing.
Now you see a max day, but they also record peak hour flows. I mean, again, I think it's, why don't we see what, since Don's not going to be providing the peak flow, let's see what he can provide to approximate what we originally had in the agreement. I mean, it's up to the board.
All right, well, let's see what we can do, and we'll take a look at the agreement and see what section that is.
It's in section 1.3C.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And I unfortunately have to jump, Bill, for like 11 o'clock.
All right. Yeah, I actually think we're done because we're not going to be talking about Elm Street until the next meeting. So
Okay.
I think we're all set. So I'll make a motion to adjourn. If Wayne, you don't have anything else you want to talk about?
I'm
It's
all
just-
set. Thank you.
Okay. Donald, if you could just send us an email as to what you are doing daily, that will help us get to seeing what the peak flows are going to be.
I will do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Dan, you and I can take a look at it and see where it is on reference to 1.3C.
Sure.
Okay, great.
You wanna call
Thanks,
after
guys.
this, Paul?
All right, thank you.
All right, well, let me, I made a motion. Can we do a roll call?
Yep. Second, by the way. Wayne Sawchuck, aye.
Paul Kearsey.
Bill McGowan, aye. All right, see you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Happy
everybody.
Thanksgiving.